I'm calling the meeting to order. This is the Board of Selectmen's meeting for March 7th, 2017, 6 o'clock, town of Southampton. We're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Before I start the meeting, I want to explain a few rules and how we conduct ourselves here. We have quite a large crowd here. In fact, this is probably the largest crowd I can remember ever. The Board of Selectmen, for open time for public, reserves this so that you can give input to the Board of Selectmen. Open time is a time when town residents can bring matters before the Select Board that require a minimum of discussion and are not on the agenda. Please try to keep your comments short and to the point. Plan on being allowed up to about 5 minutes per person, not per topic, to speak on any meeting under open time only. If it appears the topics being discussed will consume longer than 5 minutes allocated, then at the discretion of the chair, the matter will be placed on an upcoming Board of Selectmen meeting agenda. A lot of times we have people that start with something, and the next thing we know, it's like, okay, we got to research it, we got to get into this. So you're basically just bringing the topics up. If you believe your topic will require more time or desire to make a more formal presentation than is allowed under these rules, please contact the town administrator to ask to be put on future agendas so that we can properly allocate enough time. You are free to ask or to make your point for all to consider. However, engaging in active debate with the Board of Selectmen or the audience members will not be allowed. All comments and questions must be directed to the chair of this board. All remarks must be respectful and courteous, free from name-calling, personal attacks, and inappropriate language will not be tolerated. I don't see that with this group, but I'm still reading it. With that, the meeting is starting. First up is going to be appointments. First appointment is appointments to the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Bob, you want to explain that a little bit to the board?
Yes, we did receive a request for an appointment to the Metropolitan Planning Organization. This is the organization that acts regionally with representatives from boards of selectmen of all the participating towns and cities that basically controls federally financed highway projects for the region. And I think we've talked about this before. Everyone recognizes it's important to have a seat at the table, particularly since we have certainly a very large project, an important project, pending. And lots of things can happen. Projects can be postponed, or projects can be authorized that are not particularly on the schedule based on availability of funds. So having a representative there is very important. They insist that it be a member of the Board of Selectmen, so you can't appoint me.
That said, I threw my hat in. If you would like me to represent the town in this, it might help us down the road, no pun intended, to get funding to repair roads in town. But it takes a vote of this board.
I should have mentioned, they prepare the plan that's called the TIP plan, the Transportation Improvement Plan for the region.
No, I think with your background and your willingness, so I'll make a motion we select you as our representative to the MPO.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, I think.
And thank you.
I looked at the map. Southampton happens to be the largest community in that region. We have no representation on that committee. So somebody needs to step up to the plate with this. Next appointment is Bobby Jones, Public Records access officer for the public schools. And the other one is Craig Jurginski. Jurgensen, Public Records Access Officer for the public schools. Because the public laws have changed on access of records, we need to designate somebody at the schools that will have that authority also. Do I hear a motion?
Bobby's okay with this, and
Yes.
and Craig's okay?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we accept both Bobby Jones and Craig Jurgensen.
I'll
Second.
second.
Oh, go ahead.
All in favor?
Oh, can I have just a quick question? Are these annual appointments or multi-years, or?
I don't know, to be quite candid.
It's ongoing,
Ongoing, yeah.
ongoing until you, until they choose another officer.
With-
For life, Charlie.
It's a lifetime
Well, with the
position.
changes to the public records law in January, this is
Yeah.
all
this
that
is
more
what's-
important,
This is
yeah.
all,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Another thing that's not sitting on your agenda, but it needs to be brought up, is we need to designate the tree warden, Ron Lauren, as a special town employee. Did you get that, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
That was omitted when we did all that list of special town employees. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
As long as we can do it without it being on the agenda.
I'm comfortable with that. It's a non-paying position.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Otherwise, I would say put it on the next agenda, but if you're comfortable,
yeah, I
that's fine.
don't see anybody challenging that.
Okay.
I mean, if we were paying the guy and stuff like that, you know.
So so he does this tree cutting for free, or they charge?
He has a budget to hire companies to do this, but he
Okay.
does the work for free.
Yeah, the salary went away, I think, about 5-6 years ago when I was on the
Yeah.
finance committee. And
When you
now
were
he
on the
just,
finance committee, you took the wages away from this guy.
well, actually, no, it wasn't him at the time. It was somebody else, and he came and volunteered to have the wages go into the operating expense so they could do more work.
Right.
And again, is this an annual appointment for him, or is
Yes.
this, okay,
It's actually
1 year.
for the position, not for him.
Right.
okay, for
But
the
he's
position.
named into it.
Okay.
The reality is so that if he does any other work in town, there isn't any concern that there's a ethics issue relative to that.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right, we are now going to open time to the public.
Arthur Lawrence, 113 Crooked Ledge Road. Just coming, before I came down here, I noticed that the rules have changed, or at least they are to me as far as presenting. I have a 15 or 20-minute presentation that I'd like to give. It's entitled Town of Southampton Senior Issues. And I've talked to Bob, and he's going to allow me to speak, I think, at the next meeting, and it'll be an agenda item.
I think that would be better, Art, than trying to,
Thank you.
you know.
Lorraine Loisel, Hillside Meadows, the Garden of Eden. As you can see, many seniors are here tonight because of our concern in the 5-month delay in posting for the position of a COA director and also for a second van driver. Our second concern is lack of communication between the COA board and the senior community. According to the Mass Department of Elder Affairs, the board advocates for the elder community. If they're not speaking to them, how can they advocate? One has to follow the other. In regards to executive session, which is taking place, I believe, according to the agenda, the law states that if you are discussing an individual, they and their counsel have a right to attend. So could you please answer why you're going into executive session? Or give us a clue.
We are going into executive session to discuss with the Board of Council on Aging the complaints that were filed against that board in its entirety.
So the person who filed those complaints, I assume she has a right to be in the meeting, and she also has a right to counsel according to the law.
You are misinterpreting the law according to what our town council has advised us. I will be reading a statement when we go into executive session that'll outline our attorney's position as to how this should proceed.
So the senior community will not know anything?
My hope is after executive session, we'll come back to open time and report to the general population what we discovered and what our conclusions are.
Okay. So we are coming back after?
Yes.
That was one of my questions also. So you're telling me we do not have to be advised other than you're going in regarding the concerns, and the person who filed the concerns has no right to be there?
That is what I was told by town council.
Wow.
I know we're going to read it before the executive session, but since everybody's here, would you mind, maybe we can lay it out in more
Sure.
layman's terms so we all understand why?
This came from an attorney. I'm not going to say it's layman's terms.
Well, you know, but
All right, but this is the response from town council to the Board of Selectmen. We've had a few requests to hold this session in open session. While we appreciate the importance of people coming forward with concerns or complaints, we are not obligated, nor do we feel it appropriate in this instance to discuss those issues in the first instance in a public forum. Under the open meeting law, only the subject of the executive session, such as this one has the right to request that the meeting be held in the open. Under the open meeting law, only the subject of the executive session, in other words, person being complained about, which is at this point the board of executive, such as this one, has the right to request that the meeting be held in open session. In other words, if the Council on Aging Board voted to hold it in open session, we would hold it in open session.
Well, hopefully they would do that.
But that's not the Select Board's vote. That's their vote. And they'll be asked that before we go into executive
Okay.
session.
And could I just one other statement before
Can
I
I
finish my
finish?
5 minutes?
No, can I finish this? And
Oh,
then
I'm
you can
sorry, I
finish your
thought you
5
were
minutes?
done.
I mean, I'm not really got a stopwatch running there at this point. Persons may make complaints, do not have the right to participate or be privy to such executive sessions.
Wow.
well, that's because in this case, the person making the complaint's not against this person. It's against the board. That's why the board has a decision. If it was against an individual, that individual would have the opportunity to come to the executive session with a lawyer, but it's a little different case, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so,
So much for my business law 101. That just went out the window.
Like I said to you earlier, I was going to talk to the town attorney and get the town attorney's spin on this, because you and me are both reading this and reading it again and reading it a third time and going, is it saying what we think it's saying?
All right, go ahead, Charlie, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. In addition, even though the Board of Selectmen will be reviewing issues raised with respect to the Council on Aging, and not an individual per se, the Attorney General has held that this is appropriate to hold executive sessions such as this to discuss complaints against a board or committee. Because of the nature of such complaint is against the board as it is comprised by individual public officials. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Two more things, and I promise I'm done. I just want to give the definition of a Council on Aging Board is to advise, not govern. And my other concern is Mrs. Cutler be excused from the executive session since she wears two hats in this case. She's a board member, and she's also the interim director at this point. And that, to me, is a conflict.
And it's not, because I've already filed my disclosure that the Ethics Commission advised me to submit.
So we can be
That I'll
assured
be
that,
sitting on the Select Board during that meeting.
and you will be voting in favor of us.
We don't know what we're voting. We don't even know if we're
All
going
right.
to be taking a vote.
did
Thank you
get
very much
something
for your
from the-
time.
Did you get something from the
Yeah, I already
ethics?
submitted it to me last week.
Okay. Pardon?
I'd like to see that finding.
Art, would you come to the podium, please?
I'd like to see that finding. Can you
Would
produce
repeat-
that?
Repeat it again, please,
Can you
Art?
reproduce that finding that you can sit in on this meeting?
Yep.
Well, let's see it.
If the board wants it, then yeah.
I would be comfortable with that, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have it?
No, I'm saying the same thing you are, Art.
Oh,
If she
okay.
has it to show it. Yeah, it's better to put it on file and on record.
You don't believe it. I don't believe I'm sitting here doing this. I mean,
I guess I'm confused. We have a state of Massachusetts laws, and then we have town of Southampton laws.
No.
oh, we're following the Commonwealth's laws when it comes to this hearing.
For a conflict of interest, you have to go to the State Board of Ethics and tell them what the situation is, and they can tell you, yes, you can, or no, you can't. And Shannon's saying she did go there, and she got something back saying it was okay. So that's what we're just asking. Pardon?
Well, if everybody talks, nobody's going to hear nothing, and if you get up to the podium, the people that are listening will hear what's going on. The first person that I'm recognizing is the one with their hand up.
I also called the Ethics Board about this.
Your name?
Oh, Margie Strikers, 39 Bloomer Road. I also called the Ethics Board about this, and they're sending me papers to file a complaint. So, I don't know what she's got, but
But
I'll be
that-
filing a complaint if it
Okay,
continues.
I appreciate that. I have a question for the,
I talked to a Paul Murray.
there's so many attorneys at the Ethics Commission that I'm not even going to try to track somebody down. I need to have the Council on Aging Board vote, have they requested this to be an open?
Is the board here? I mean, if the board's here, can you raise your hand just so we know who the board is? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, is the board 7 members or 5?
Who's the chair? Could the chair come up to the podium, please? The chair sits in the back.
She's shy.
The chair didn't know what she was getting into a few months ago.
Welcome to Southampton.
I know Southampton. Patrice Mackey, Sophie Circle. I've been chair for like 2 weeks.
Has your board made a formal vote to decide if they want to have this an open session?
Probably not.
I need to have your board take that vote. My understanding is your meeting is posted tonight. So you need to take a vote.
Okay.
Yes.
So she would,
I don't vote.
you have to ask the question.
Oh, do. Executive session, do you,
You can just ask if the board wants to have the meeting in executive session or open session.
Connie, do you want to have it in executive session or closed session?
I already said executive session.
Dorothy?
So the vote of your board is executive session. Okay, we are going to now move into executive session.
Did Shannon? What?
I emailed it to Charlie.
Okay.
And I can't do anything because
Can you
of-
email it to me, Shannon?
You just email it to the select board.
Yeah.
Have it, and then-
Why don't we answer this question so everybody's
If she
comfortable?
wants to speak, you answer the question. We'll-
First of all, I wanted to request an open meeting, but I can see that's not going to happen. My main concern is that they've had 5 months to post a position, and they have not yet done it. They tell us they are, but they don't do it. At one point, someone went down and said, I turned it in, and then I went to the PPP meeting that night, and they said it was never turned in. What was turned in was a job description, not a request for a job. They're two different things. And I think you are violating the open meeting law, which says you may discuss an individual. It says individual. The COA board is not an individual. I am the one who brought the charges, and I think I should be allowed to stay. And why do you need a strategy session with them when you didn't have one with me? We, the citizens and seniors of Southampton, deserve to have our concerns addressed. All persons attending this meeting, by a show of hands, who would like an open meeting? They're sorely outvoted by the people who vote for you. According to the Mass Elder Affairs Law, a guide for board members of the COA board is only an advisory committee. They are not to have hands-on or give direct orders to the COA office. The director, wait a minute. I've got it here. COA boards are typically serve in an advisory, not government capacity. Board members advise, but staff members implement, not the board. Becoming involved in day-to-day function operations is neither your role nor your responsibility. I don't think they've read this. I think someone should educate them on this. And I hope you do.
You're doing that.
Well, I'm trying.
Did you get the answer that you requested?
Oh, here it is. It's
got it?
popped up? Yep. Okay, so if I can, because everybody's interested, do you mind if I read this?
Go ahead.
It's public, okay. I may paraphrase a couple of things. Says, this is from Ann Bressler-Nee, a staff counsel out of the State Ethics Commission. Said, Dear Ms. Cutler, as a follow-up to our conversation about the Conflict of Interest Law, General Law, Chapter 268A, you may participate as a selectman in a matter in executive session that has to do with the Council on Aging, but first you should file a disclosure under Section 23B, subsection 3 with the town clerk. In the disclosure, you should disclose that the selectman will be addressing a matter regarding the COA in executive session, and that you currently are the interim director of the COA. The disclosure form calls upon you to confirm that, taking into account the facts that you have disclosed, you feel that you can be fair and objective when performing your official duties as a selectman. This disclosure should be filed before you attend the meeting. Below are links to a form. So, did you file that with the clerk?
Mm-hmm.
I don't suppose Janine's here tonight.
Bob should have a copy of it too. I dropped it off at Builder.
Janine is here?
Janine is here.
Mhm.
Yes, she
Okay.
walked in before us.
What, can we just bring her in? You mind, Charlie?
Yeah. Bob, bring
Yeah, I get-
Janine in. Call him bailiff pretty soon.
Well, I mean, everybody showed up, so I think we want to give them all the information we can.
No, I have no problem with this. I want to make sure everybody understands the
Yeah.
process. I hope everyone heard me when I said, we're going to go back in open session. Well, I can't win.
You have a hammer over there. Use.
And I forgot which of the young ladies said that, you know, you all wanted to go into open session and there was 5 and we should go in and you're the voters that put us in the office. We're just following legal counsel's, telling us how to do it. So we're not pro or con. We're following what our legal
Janine,
counsel
would you
said.
approach the bench, please?
The mic. Podium.
Janine, this is your life. No.
We've been studying.
There is no Bible.
You asked the question, you have the
Right.
paperwork.
Shannon gave us the email from the State Ethics Commission, and they recommended that she file a disclosure with you. And Shannon has said she has filed it with you, and we just need confirmation that's filed and everything is okay.
Yes, she did. She filed Chapter 268A, Section 23B3.
Okay, and it looks okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Thank
I
you,
think that
Tom.
circles around. Thank you. When was it filed? No.
It was filed March 2nd.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions on that?
Thank you, Janine.
Thanks, Janine.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Janine.
welcome.
Bailiff, you can escort her back to her cell.
I think that lady is coming up.
Yeah, I know, they told her
Oh,
to.
okay.
Hi, Susan Canning. I have just a quick question. I understand these folks in the front row and the chair in the back are the Board for Council on Aging, is that correct?
That's our understanding.
It's in my first meeting in understanding there's a real issue here with Council on Aging. It is really an eye-opener that the board does not have the same opinion as the folks here. When I took a quick glance, when you took a vote, there is a big disconnect. And that really needs to be addressed.
And that's
I
the
would
purpose, that's the purpose
Okay.
of having the meeting, is we're trying to find out where the underlying problem is.
Okay, because again, as somebody just sitting here and you know,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what's going on, wow, big disconnect to a board that's helping seniors.
And right, if I may be candid, right now, what's happening is, we're hearing the seniors, they're catching us in the hallways and whatever to tell us about it.
Clearly
We're
they're here,
hearing-
yeah.
But we're not hearing anything from the board.
There's another
So-
big disconnect right there.
So we're bringing the board in to have a private meeting so we can discuss this and find out what is going on.
Right, because I would hope the town of Southampton would want the best for your seniors,
Absolutely.
right? All right, thank you for your time.
What age are you a senior in this town? Because I got a feeling
Five.
I may be in that one.
She said
Right.
55.
55?
But remember, we're all at one point, will be a senior or have senior parents.
Yes.
I think we
So-
have to disqualify ourselves here. Any other comments? Then I'm going to close open time, and we're going to vote to go into executive session,
And come back up.
and we'll come back out. Our hope is when we come back out, we'll be able to give you an understanding of what we've decided and go from there. Boy, there's a question. I have no idea how long it's going to take, but we have other things on the agenda.
There's 12 complaints on the list,
So it'll take a few minutes.
so it'll take a little bit.
I'm figuring a half an hour. I'm guessing a half an hour.
Is the senior center open now that folks can go into? And
No.
Okay, because you're not near the microphone, we're going to move into executive session. Executive session, MGL Chapter
And-
30.
Want me to let him in?
We're back live, March 7th, 2017. It's about 7:45, and the Selectmen's meeting is resuming. We just went to executive session. We just came out of executive session. Mr. Martin is going to give us a summary.
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to go by the list that Marjorie Streichars gave us, okay? So I'm going to read down the issues and give you the information I can. First is no permanent PCF has been submitted since the director resigned in October. The COA board said that they will have a PCF approved by the board and submitted to the Personnel Policy and Procedures Board within the week. So that will then get approved by the PQB and come up for posting. So. Next one, the COA gave away grant money awarded to Southampton in the amount of $16,000. That number is incorrect just to start off. But what happened is because there wasn't a director in place and there wasn't as much interest in the programs, money was returned to Highland Valley, is that correct?
Yes.
Highland
No.
Valley for years 1 and then also for years 2. But we're still in good standing with Highland Valley and FRTA. So no money was wasted, it was returned because the program,
Can I say something?
I don't think so, but,
Okay.
we taking any comments?
Nope.
No, okay. Number 3, the COA has given permission or has participated in the deleting of files. The state has a retention schedule for files, and if you go on the state website, it tells you have to have certain files, you keep them for so many years, and I know I work for the state, and normally it's 7 years, or unless they're personnel or medical records. After that time period, you can dispose of them, you destroy them, delete them, and that's what they were doing. So they weren't breaking any laws, they were just going by the state retention schedule. The pay rate for the interim director is the same as a highly qualified director with 15-plus years of experience. That's at the COA's discretion. We don't have a say in that. They can set a pay rate, and they could hire whoever they want at the pay rate. So it is at the same rate, but we don't have any way to overrule that. They're advising that we no longer loan out medical equipment, and that's true. From what was said is that there's medical equipment there, including commodes, that are used and returned. It's not being cleaned, and then people want to borrow it. So because of liability and the issues of where they don't want to clean it, they're not going to be loaning out equipment again.
They're not dirty when they bring them back.
Keep talking.
6, they're discussing turning the storeroom into an office and putting up, this says permanent wall to divide our space. Our understanding is there's just paper in there, and they're taking the paper out, and they're going to use it for a small office, so there's some privacy when people come in to fill out applications and all that. Nothing was said about a permanent wall, just a partition wall outside. They're recommending that all keys and codes be changed to restrict access to the Friends of COA. True in the sense that the keys that are now with the Friends, I believe there's a master key out there with someone that needs to be returned. And the Friends, when they need to get in and use a common space, they can go over to the police department and pick up a key and get in and use the common space anytime. It's similar to what we had to do here with the town hall. We had to go over and get a key from the police station. We currently have one, but that took years to get. Richard, the van driver, will no longer be able to help with the moving of tables for Friends events. I think that's partially true. FRTA doesn't allow him to do that stuff on their time, but if he's off the clock and volunteering, he's welcome to help set up tables and everything. Let's see, COA director, assistant, or volunteer cannot take money or maintain a list for Friends. That will take away from their duties, and there will be no commingling of funds. Friends were advised to get a lockbox that can't be placed. Again, they don't want to commingle the money, which is their choice, but my understanding is a lockbox will be put up so that the Friends can use it to collect their money, so they'll just have to not commingle the funds. Was advised that you can't be a friend and work in the office or be on the board. As far as the office goes, there's HIPAA information, personal information, and all that, and they don't want people going in the office that aren't on the COA, the board, because that's private information. As far as being on the board, my understanding is you can be on the board and be on the Friends. You might have to go through the same process Sharon went through, call the State Ethics Commission, and just get tell them what you're doing. But I don't think there's any law against it, but that can be checked out if you want. It says when they submit their minutes, they don't include public comments or the changes they want to make. So this says BOA. I'm guessing it says COA?
No, it should be BOS.
Oh, BOS? Oh, sorry, okay. BOS has no idea what they're planning. Secretary of State basically says you just have to have general comments and general parameters on there. If somebody thinks there's not enough information, they should get a hold of the Secretary of State and tell them what's on there versus what they think should be. But in general, you just need to have general statements of what goes on at the meetings.
I can't come to you for my concerns.
Well, again,
We're not opening this up for formal discussion, but I will
at the end?
I will at the end.
Okay. They refuse to train an unpaid volunteer to be a backup person for doing the newsletter. 2 reasons for that. One is the computer and the office both have personnel files. They have HIPAA files, medical, all that. So if somebody outside the board is on those computers, they might have information that they shouldn't have. So I think that's all of them.
Okay, to double back on the minutes, within the next year, this town is going to have all its meeting rooms wired, which means just like what we're doing right now is going to be recorded, and it's going to end up being broadcast on the cable, and it's also going to end up being something that people can watch on the internet. So this issue of what's being said and what's being actually written in the minutes it's gonna be a moot point, because you're gonna be able to see it. And then eventually, all these boards and committees are gonna be in a situation where they're gonna have to record their meetings.
That's all we had here.
Okay.
I don't know if you're taking questions or,
Does the board wish to take questions?
I mean, if there's a few questions, I'm fine with them myself. I want to make sure everybody has a comfort level.
Jim, you okay with that?
Yeah, if we limit it, I just don't want a lot of repeats. If they have some good concerns, let's listen to them.
Comments? Podium?
Jennifer Peliquin, former Council on Aging Director. I have a question about the returning of the funds to Highland Valley for year 1 and 2. They were returned for the first year. It was stated that the money for Highland Valley was returned for year 1 and 2. Is that
Jennifer,
true?
The way this works is you can pose questions to this board, but it doesn't become an open discussion between everybody in this room about what if this and what if that.
Well, no,
okay?
I'm just wondering because as director, I know that the funds for year 1 were spent, so they could not have been returned.
Well, that question will be something that I'm assuming, John, you want to explore that and see where it goes?
If it's okay, I mean, unless somebody from the board wants to go. Our understanding is that year 1, can I go over the amounts? It's a public grant? Yep.
Yeah.
The grant was split into 2 amounts. One was $6,650 for first year and $7,440 for the second year. So that totaled $14,090. And my understanding, the first year, they returned $3,200 because of the FRTA grant, and the money for this grant kind of double paid, so they had to return part of the money back that year. If I'm not saying that right, somebody from the board can
No,
come up.
I made out the bills. I know that that money was spent for the first year.
They said it was double billed.
No, it was not.
No, the double bill was a
Check with the
small
town
dollar.
accountant, please, because it was not double billed.
Can we get somebody
We
from the board up?
received payments by Highland Valley monthly after we submitted a monthly report. That money was spent. There may have been a small amount, a couple $100 left from that grant year, but not the whole thing.
What you need to do is send an email to town accountant tomorrow,
Okay.
okay?
So let me check on that, because if you're saying something different, I want to find out.
And then for year 2, what was the problem with keeping the money for the van transportation? The van has been running continuously. There hasn't been no interruption in service. There should not have been at all. The assistant COA director is also a co-van administrator, so she should have been taking care of that van. There was no reason to give that money back. Years past, we've been in the hole with the van. Why are we giving money back now?
Our understanding, it was for the dementia program, and it had to be used directly.
There were 2
for
separate grants, 2 separate. There was the van and there was dementia.
Yeah.
Dementia, fine. If you didn't want to have the new director do the program, but not the van. People depend on this van. There's been years where we came to near the end of the year and we were thinking, oh, are we going to have to shut the van down because we don't have enough money, and then we refuse money, we give it back?
No, be clear with her, because it wasn't the van monies, it was
Right.
the dementia monies, and it was the van transportation for the dementia unit.
It had to be
It
used,
wasn't all the van monies that got sent back, it was just for that dementia unit.
it had to
So
be
the
to
complete-
transport.
See, you're not being clear with that.
That's what you're talking about. The van monies didn't get, so FRTA,
Yes.
That didn't get sent back.
nothing got,
So you only sent back,
it was the dementia.
so you didn't accept the $3,804 for this year, is what you're saying?
The total amount wasn't accepted because there was nobody in place to run the program. It was
That was what, the
$74.40.
But the $7,400 would include the van transportation as a separate.
But our understanding is it was a van transportation just for the dementia program.
That was only a couple $100.
Our understanding it was a whole part of it. That's what we were told.
But
And
the
and
van
ju-
transportation under dementia was in that 3804.
Yeah,
It
we-
was in that. There was an additional amount of 3636 granted for the van.
The Highland Valley rep was giving us the breakdown of that.
This is from Highland Valley. I have an email right here with the amounts.
Okay, so if you can give that to us, because we were getting it from them. Our understanding is there was no FRTA money at all that went back. It was just for that dementia program. The
So it
van-
was only the 3804.
No, the van component as well as the program component.
I'm not
have
following.
something- if you have
Can I
something-
talk to the town accountant at some point then to find out this information? Is it public record?
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah, I'm going to follow up tomorrow, too.
Okay, and then I also have a question about the not letting volunteers in because they can't see personal information
Into that office.
into that office. Are all the current employees and COA board members Cory checked at this point in time?
I don't know the answer to that.
In the process, they're supposed to be in place
Whoa, here we
before
go.
anybody.
Here we go back to.
Okay, they're supposed to be in place before
Record to me.
anybody has access to any of those personal files that are not public record in that office.
We
It's
didn't talk
required
about
by
that.
the state Executive Office of Elder Affairs.
I'm not debating that.
Charlie, we didn't go over that. It wasn't on
I know.
one of the
Yeah.
12 things. That's why we didn't talk about that.
Well, I'm just bringing it up because one of their reasonings was, no, they don't want personal information giving out.
Well, John seems to be taking the lead on this, so I think he'll do a follow-up on that.
Yep. And it sounds like they're being checked, so we'd have to find out if the people that aren't checked are actually going into that office, so follow up on that.
And I would just like to say for the record, I'm very disappointed in the way that things have progressed since I left.
That's why we're here.
Again,
Don't trip over that.
I know it's loaded with money, so definitely don't want to. I want to go back to the Cory check and the volunteers not being able. Do you want me to address John or you?
Should be addressing me. I'm
Okay.
just trying to stop open warfare.
Okay. I am not interested in warfare. I'm open to communication.
Very good.
And so volunteers cannot go into the office. The volunteers who go into the office are Cory checked. Now we had board members who were in there a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, were not Cory checked. And we're worried about the volunteers. I think I'd be more worried about the people that were in there going through files that were not Cory'd.
Yep, I
And
agree.
then, the programs. They didn't want to get involved in the programs. Do you want to ask the seniors about the programs? Maybe they would have been interested. The board wasn't interested in the programs, so we're going to send the money back. But what about the seniors? Is this a senior center or is it not?
When you say they weren't interested, they didn't have anybody to manage the program. I guess it's a tri-county program for 3 different, tri-town program for 3 different towns, and they tried to have Easthampton take it over, but they didn't have the personnel either. So it's not as, it was for a dementia program, so it was just for that specific program, and I believe during the first year of the grant, the turnout, the attendance was very poor, so that's why part of it was sent back for the first year.
All right, let me address that,
Okay.
because the first year they did it, I took part in it.
Okay.
And we filled, we had 40 to 50 people that attended just in Southampton. That's a lot of people in this town, as you saw tonight, you know, and you mentioned yourself. Nobody ever comes to these meetings. And I just think it was unfair that there was no communication, the programs were dismissed. Maybe somebody in Southampton would have stepped up and been willing to do it. But we weren't given the opportunity. And again, it goes back to lack of communication.
May I ask a question?
Sure,
What do you believe is the solution to this?
communication.
Just communication?
Yeah. You've,
How would you feel would be the best way of improving communication?
the board stop going into executive sessions, open up their meetings, and listen to the community. Ask the board members how many of them ever take part in anything that goes on inside that center. You might be surprised at the answer, yet they know what's best for the seniors, and yet they never ask the seniors. Thank you.
Point taken.
I mean, I was very much surprised at how you got a whole group of members over here and you have the board over here. So obviously communication is, it's not there, you know? And
The main reason is we have to get a director.
Can you
and
identify
we
yourself?
have to get my name is Catherine Lorigan, and we do not have, they've been putting off this position description for no reason. And this is the problem. If we get the position description or we get a director, then maybe a lot of these problems will be solved because we'll have a leader. Right now, we're floundering. And this is the most important part, and you said time, and is it gonna be a week and it's gonna be posted?
Well, they said they're going to bring it up this week to their COA board, get it approved, and get it this week to the PQB. So we're holding that
Well,
time.
I would like them to approve it and post it, because this is what they've been doing. They've just been fiddling around with it and then not posting it and going on and on and on, and this is the problem.
I mean, they said they were doing research to get the right job description, so be it as.
They researched it for long enough.
I'm not arguing with you,
Right.
but
I'm
if
sorry,
we
but
got that.
That's the problem.
If we have that assurance from them that they're gonna do it in that time frame, I think we should do that. And it's gotta go before the PQB, so if it goes in the next week, I think we'll all be happy with that, because I agree with you, we should have a director to lead. Okay.
Hi, I'm Dennis Leclerc. I'm from the Senior Center. I belong to them. Yeah, I'm afraid to hear about the van, losing the van. I don't know, I hear, if I understand right, we're hurting for money for the van. I don't know if I heard it right or wrong, but I use the van on an average. I'm disabled. I'm a senior person, and I'm a veteran. And I don't want to lose my van. I lost my license because of my disease. I broke my hip, and I got other illnesses, and I depend on this van 3 times a week on an average. And this is ridiculous what's going on. And another thing, we're needing volunteers. I've been asked if I knew any men. Personally, if I knew men, I don't know men. Really, it's majority of women, but we need volunteers for our lunches. And I volunteered, and you see me hobbling, but I still want to help with the chairs. I can do that. I do pile them up so high, and I don't belong to the, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't work here or anything like that, part-time or full-time. I'm just a volunteer, and I'd like to keep that because the senior center needs help. And that's all I want to say. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Just to reiterate, our understanding is it doesn't affect the FRTA van at all. This was just for that special program, so there's no cuts or anything in that, so.
On the van?
On the van, yeah.
We were under the impression that the van should still operate.
Yeah,
Good.
it didn't affect that.
Thank you.
And you're right about the volunteers. We need more volunteers.
Definitely.
Just me saying it, but I would suggest the board sit down with all the members and have a big open meeting and just try to talk this through, because you've got 2 different sides here, and this isn't going to work unless you get together.
Let me just state that.
Microphone. And I'm not trying to be mean to you, but I catch it every time someone doesn't make it to that microphone.
I feel abused.
And it's mostly seniors.
Just to say, we are on the agenda for March 21st, and we will definitely have an open agenda. We do not need to go into any closed-doors sessions. And then I hope that the seniors will be heard, because this is their home. This is, for some of these seniors, this is their only socializing. That's their home away from home.
A curiosity question.
I am a senior, yes. That wasn't the question?
Oh, but it was pretty good, wasn't it?
Little self-serving, but it's good.
Rather than using Board of Selectmen's time, would it be better to take and use the cable access channel and put a forum together using them? Bring a member of the Council on Aging Board and a member of the group to have a discussion. I wouldn't mind sitting in on that and just sort of acting as a sounding board. And that way there would be televised, and we wouldn't be worried about time constraint, because, I mean, it's like tonight, we have a number of executive sessions and other things we have to do. But would that be more, and it would allow the seniors some time, some quality time to listen to what's going on?
I would pass that by other people. That wouldn't be a decision that I would make on my own. It
I
would be
know.
something that I would consider.
I don't mind talking to the director of the cable company and looking at that as a way of getting both entities together and having an open discussion.
But I would like to see this resolved quicker rather than later.
Oh, I totally agree with you. This shouldn't have gotten to where it is.
No, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put together a job description in over 5 months.
But I
You
think we
know.
need to get past that part. If they do it within the week or so, let's go forward with that.
Right, because it has to go through a whole process. So it's going to be another couple of months before we even start interviewing.
Well, I
You
don't
know, and we are in desperate need of a permanent director,
Yep.
you know, in there. And, you know, we had suggested that post it as is, and when you're interviewing, let the person know that some of the duties may change. Give them that option, but that was discarded.
It's better to put a clear job description
Well,
because
they're
you want to
getting a-
attract somebody that's good.
I'm sure the periods are all in the right places and the commas are right there. You know, so we will, you know, do our best.
Consider what I said.
We will consider it, but again, I will speak with other people. I would never do anything to my seniors without checking with them.
I'm actually putting this right now in front of everybody that's watching this broadcast.
Well, we'll see what
So
happens.
we'll see where we go.
And I just want to comment about Dennis. The seniors that come in to the center love to volunteer, and that door is being closed on them. And that's part of being a senior center, is encouraging people to give their time to volunteer and to also remind the board that you are the governing board of the senior center. The board is just advisory, but you are the power. Thank you.
Well, because this came up in the last couple of weeks, we're going to keep our eye on all this and make sure something happens. Now, can I put you on this spot, Cheryl? Since you're interim director, would you mind being proactive in facilitating this get-together and see if you can get the two groups together?
I think that would be very beneficial for both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think
So you got a great group of people that wants to work there.
Yes, I will try to get a meeting together with the board and the seniors.
Let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
And if we could set it up as a broadcast, then everybody in town can see
Yep.
what the conversation's about. Yes, sir.
Ben Borowski. I don't know if I have a solution, but I've worked in many offices in my day, and most of them had a lock drawers. It seems like if we had a place where you could lock your confidential files in our office, anybody could walk in there. That's fine, as long as they're locked. You must have some somewhere,
You would think.
you would think.
Yeah.
But if the computer is on, and I think it requires, and I may be wrong, to hit the information, maybe require a double lock system, you know, an office and a file cabinet type of,
Whatever,
yeah.
whatever it takes. Then any volunteer could go in there and with no questions asked.
I need to move this meeting forward with other topics. Is there anyone else that has anything they would like? Art? You all set? Francine, you all set?
No. About giving the money back on the dementia, it's done, it's gone. Had we known that was happening, had someone told us that, I went on the dementia website, and there's plenty of programs, Springfield, Greenfield, all around, that we could have somehow participated in, had we known they were giving it back, but they just gave it back.
I think that's where the communication going forward
Well,
is
they
important.
don't,
We didn't find out until just,
but they don't tell us till after.
well, again, communication
Yeah.
going forward is going to be
And
important.
I have copies here of what they have posted for their next meeting that I would like to distribute to you. This is how we are treated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with this, I'm closing this part of the,
But we're not allowed, I don't want to discuss that.
We're going to be able
I mean, this looks fine for a general agenda.
I know, we have other agenda items tonight too, and I need to keep this moving. It's not disrespect to anybody here, but there's other people sitting in this group that need to discuss things with us also. So we're moving on to the next agenda item, if the board's okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay with that? All right, next is the report of the town administrator.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Notice how he clears the room?
Yeah. Happens often.
You better wait a
It
minute,
happens
Bob.
I did.
General.
You all can move to the front of the church if you'd like.
Just got this one warmed up.
No?
Okay, I'll try to move this along. Finance Committee met yesterday. They're having a regular series of Monday meetings. They've asked me to schedule departments. And I met with Vicki early this morning, and we are going to prepare a list of all the new initiatives that have been requested by all the boards, committees, and departments, and the cost of those initiatives, and eventually compare that with what we expect for revenue, so that we'll have a basis for making very basic budget decisions. So should have that together, I think, by the next Finance Committee meeting, which would be next Monday. Also, I still have this request from a company called Soltage from Florida, interested in doing a solar application on land. And if the board, they want to meet with the board. I don't know what the pleasure of the board is on that, but I'm going to communicate back to them either that we're agreeable or not. So.
It's strange to come to the Board of Selectmen for that. Usually the planning board is the one that's been handling the applications for it.
Well, I can just say that I can direct them to the planning board.
I'll just
Unless it's something out of the ordinary, I don't know.
I'll direct them to the planning board and see what bounces back.
Yeah, they might want to do that because they're the ones that hold the public hearing for that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, direct them to planning.
all right. I have spoken with 3 public sector search firms, and they've been invited for March 21st, for our meeting on the 21st. I am not sure that all will attend. I think Mr. Lynch will attend. I'm not certain about Mark Morris. He told me that he has a lot of work. The Collins Institute at UMass Boston was also invited. I'm not sure if they're going to attend, but we will at least have Bernie Lynch, who has done other work for the town, and I think perhaps the Collins Institute. So you can interview them and then make a choice. And I assume that you would want me to include the search committee for that part of your meeting.
Right, and
Yes.
we're appointing, the schedule for appointment of the search committee is the 14th.
On the 14th, next Monday, next Tuesday.
Marla, may I ask for a favor? Would you please open that door so we're not accused of having a closed-door meeting?
Okay, you're up to date on the classification compensation study. Also, Selectman Konecki and I met with the Easthampton mayor and her staff yesterday to review a proposed intermunicipal agreement for the sharing of a conservation agent. Going to have one more meeting, and we'll have to take that, we'll have to then put that on the warrant for the town meeting. And also yesterday, Charlie and I met with Jim Barry, who is in charge of the Springfield Regional Office for Green Communities. We seem to agree that the town has met the 5 criteria, and that we can be certified. The bad news is that certification won't occur until October. They do have, however, had a recommendation for us that they have some money. We can get some grant money, apparently, to hire a consultant to do what will be some extensive paperwork for the application. So I did get that information in today, and I assume that we'll just go forward with it and have it completed that way professionally, so that we'll be certified in October, and then the town can proceed to request grant monies for energy-saving improvements to our public buildings.
Hey, Bob, can I interject?
Yes.
I don't have it on my calendar. What time is the meeting next Tuesday? It's before the caucus. Is it regular time, or is it?
5.
It's 5 o'clock,
Okay,
because
that's 5 o'clock, okay.
the caucus is at 6.
Right, okay.
This is at 7.
And
7.
Charlie has limited the agenda to one item.
Perfect.
That is the appointment of, and that, I don't know if that's going to take a full hour, but
Well, we got 2 hours. The caucus doesn't start till 7.
Right. The idea was, gives us an hour to go through the screening committee, make the appointments. Something hangs that needs to be done, we'll still have a few minutes. And then I have to set up stuff with Janine for the caucus,
Yep.
because she wants to use the projectors and all
Okay.
that.
No, I'm okay. I just didn't have that time.
So,
So 5 o'clock, I counted the number of applicants this afternoon. We have 15.
15.
One withdrew.
15 applicants, not including department heads, or?
No, that's everyone.
Okay.
So we have probably 8.
Oh, yes. I would say of the 15, 6 or 7 are department heads. The rest are residents not connected with municipal government.
So that newspaper article.
I think it worked, yes.
Started off with
Good.
wanted,
It worked,
worked.
yes.
Can you get those names to us? Because we've got to make a decision. I want to be able to go over them and
Right.
at least
We'll,
my personal.
okay, I'll have all that scanned tomorrow, and we'll get it off to you.
Great, thanks.
And then for upcoming events, we have a pretty busy week coming. Board of Selectmen, wait a minute,
Be the 14th and the 21st.
14th and the 21st.
Right.
It should say 14th rather than 7th. Also, we have review of small budgets tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock with the financial group. There's the public meeting on private ways on March the 22nd. Meeting with the department heads tomorrow at 10. And again, the Finance Committee is meeting every Monday. That would be the 12th, the 19th, the 26th at 5:30 to review various budgets. And I've been asked to do the scheduling for that.
Now, on the Finance Committee, the 3 dates here, I believe those are Sundays.
Well, that's an interesting way of approaching it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm available, but I think those are Sundays. So 13th, 20th, and 27th, I believe, if my phone is right?
Well, yeah,
13th, 20th, and 27th, both on Mondays.
okay.
Okay.
I've been a bit of a cloud today, so.
No problem. I just wanted to know
You're
when
going
you
to
show
that
up.
marijuana thing, right?
Yeah, I was getting ready early for
I
that.
see that.
Oh, yes, and I'm going to be going to,
You know the microphones are on, don't you guys?
do.
Gotta have a little fun out of this. I mean,
On Friday, there is a presentation by a group of attorneys, new state marijuana legalization.
Okay.
And it's basically set up for cities and towns who will be implementing at some point a bylaw or an ordinance. And since next year, in January, legal sales begin, town of Southampton is going to have something on the warrant for the annual town meeting by way of regulation. So I'm going to hopefully come back with a model bylaw that we can look at and then get to the warrant.
And depending what the federal laws.
Well, yeah, that's the other wrinkle, that we have a change of attitude maybe in the Justice Department, and that everything could be halted. So.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
No?
All right, I'm going to go into something that wasn't on the agenda but needs to be addressed. Randall Kemp has a disclosure by non-elected municipal employee of financial interest and determination by appointment authority. Basically, Randall's working on a project that his wife has some involvement in relative to legal stuff. This is nothing unusual. This goes on with us all the
Standard,
time.
yeah.
So I need to read that into the record that we voted to approve that.
Can you read it first? Just let us know.
Basically, we are in receipt of a disclosure by a non-elected municipal employee of financial interests and the determination of appointing board as required under Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 19, is that we have no issue with this.
What's the project?
I do not know. Building of a house?
Where?
Strong Road.
So you're involved because of the curb cuts and all that stuff? Right.
Curb cut, open a public way or something like that?
Yeah,
And
signature of
your
permits.
wife represents? Oh,
If you'd like, Randall, sure.
Randall Kemp, Highway Superintendent. The form just states that one of my wife's clients is building a house, so I sign off on building permit, curb cut, and I also sign the building permit application. This is just a disclosure that I have that financial interest.
okay. This is normally what you do. Anyway.
Yeah, this is normal. There's nothing,
I've got a stack of them.
Yes.
and this is kept on record with the Board of Selectmen's
Right.
office.
Is there any
Also,
way?
town council has been authorized to speak with his wife, so we make sure that whatever is done in a legal fashion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, okay. Is there any way that you could talk, these come up often, and it's basically for curb cuts or open a public way. Is there any way we can do a letter that would authorize him? Because a blanket for that particular instance. If it's anything other than that, then he would come to us, because it's pretty trivial with open a public way and a curb cut.
Or signing the building application, you said.
Well, that's coming up, it's not yet, right?
Boilerplate.
I asked for that determination from the previous board, and they, at the time they made the vote, preferred that I do individual ones, so.
In case there's somebody out there that
think it's
has
up
an
to you.
issue, they'll know it each time.
It's pretty trivial for a curb cut.
I
I
know,
don't
it's-
think that's a big deal. That's all, it's a lot of hassle. That's why I didn't know if you're gonna go to legal, if you could ask them to see.
When he calls the Ethics Commission, if you tell them, they'll tell you what to put on the disclosure that would cover him for all of that.
Correct. That's what I'm,
I just changed the
Address each time?
Right.
exactly what
Right.
so just a suggestion.
Okay. Well set with that?
You wanna vote on it?
All right.
Need a
Do I
motion?
We
hear a
didn't vote
motion?
yet, that's all.
Need a motion?
Motion to accept? As
Second,
written.
Second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Old business. Lease agreement, Fletcher Farm with the town. At this point in time, the lease agreement has been authorized by the Conservation Commission. It has been authorized by the Fletchers. It needs to go to the Water Commissioners. I gave you an update relative to the taxes that are owed in that, and that form drifted off into that side of the table, and I don't have it.
You still have it, Jim?
I don't think so. It's drifted this way, are you sure?
Yeah, actually, I think I gave it back to Charlie. We looked at it and I handed it back to you.
Well,
I don't have it, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
if you gave it back to me, then
Is that it? No?
that's not it, that's not it. Well, per memory, the Fletchers have paid a little better than half the taxes that are owed to the town. And they have set up an agreement with the town treasurer with a payment plan that should satisfy the rest of the debt within about 3 months, 4 months,
6 months?
6 months at the most, I would guess.
Yeah, I think 6 months is what it came out.
Now, the reality of it is this instrument has to be acted on. Oh, I stand corrected. I do have it. The instrument needs to be acted on as soon as it can because the weather's changing and the Fletcher Farm is going to want to start working in the land. So if we hold this back, it's going to hold them back. What I would like to propose, no. It's in your advantage if you don't interrupt me. What I would like to propose is that the Board of Selectmen authorize signature of this contingent on the Water Department approving their side of it. I believe we have a mechanism now to take and pay those taxes and get that caught up in 6 months. I believe that everything else in this lease agreement is satisfying everyone. Maybe not 100%, but to the point where it's workable. I've sent everybody a copy of this in PDF version, so you've had time to read it. That's my feeling with this. I'd like to open it up for discussion.
Can I see that?
See that, which do you want to
The
see, the
tax part,
contract?
the tax thing,
The tax thing.
from the email. You just had it.
When is the water department meeting to review and sign?
Tomorrow night. I don't know if they're gonna sign it, but their meeting is tomorrow night. Are they gonna sign it tomorrow night? Most likely. That's what I heard from the voices.
Fair enough.
I've got a question.
Absolutely.
This is an email from Donna Whiteley. I can read this, public information. It says, just an update, Fletchers have paid their water bill current as of Monday. They still owe $3,798 to be caught up with taxes through the February installment, which were in March. What does this mean?
It means that they're waiting for the next check to be cut, and they're typically, and I could have Mr. Fletcher explain this, or Mrs. Fletcher, but they could basically, they get a milk check once a month, that they cut a check out of that milk check and go to us.
Presently $500, right? If I remember what you're saying?
No, it's up to,
But it was 500 before, the last time you came? Right. So now it's $600 a month. Now, that is not just for past taxes, that's for current taxes and everything too, right? So how would that $600 a month catch up that $3,800?
please. You need to walk this into it. You can't just.
No, that's fine. So in the last 2 weeks, the water account has been
Right.
Cleared, and we made arrangements to increase the tax payments. And on Thursday of this week, the payment was being made in the amount of $1,250 on the taxes. And our expectation was that by the 21st, we appreciate the agreement plan if you folks vote on some sort of an agreement plan, but $1,250, and Donna knows this because I've had numerous conversations.
So that $1,250 will come
was
off the
Thursday.
$3,800 roughly that you owe.
Correct,
And
yes.
how's the rest of that going to be caught up? That's what I'm not.
Well, that's what, we did not even entertain a payment plan with you folks. We knew that it had to be paid in full before the lease.
Right.
So, I mean, I explained to the town administrator, we are in spring. The way farming goes, we have a spring operating line that we expect to close in the next couple of weeks. And they have the tax reports, and it was to be paid from that.
Right.
So it was not our intention to not have what's in arrears not paid by the signing of this lease.
Right, because I believe you, Mr. Flesch said March 1st, you expected to have that all done.
Right, and just like Murphy's Law, the banks take their time, but I'm not going to have you call our bank to find out information about my loan.
That's not up.
So,
Yeah. So you'll still have outstanding roughly $2,800 until you get
no,
that.
I'm saying we did not ask for a payment plan. Mr. Kinnicky is kindly offering that. Our intention is that the taxes will be paid by the signing of this agreement. If you folks are willing to entertain that's great, because we are at the mercy of when this loan will close.
Right.
But this lease is critical to the operation of the farm. This lease has to be signed, and we have to, we also have a rent payment. Yes, it's nominal, but so we weren't asking for special consideration.
So my understanding, and maybe I got it wrong, is that you currently make a monthly payment towards taxes already, whatever that number is?
I'm sorry?
You've been making a monthly payment towards.
We always have been.
Right. So my understanding is that you were going to increase it a little bit to pay off some of the back taxes, not make a whole new. Okay, so $100 a month more you're paying against this.
Donna told me that in order to stay current, it's $561. We've increased it to $600.
So $30-something more for back taxes?
Right, but she said, if I'm getting this right, you're gonna put another lump sum to pay
Correct.
back taxes.
When you get the loan.
No, on
She just said
Thursday
she's
of this
on
week.
Thursday.
Okay,
you're gonna pay another
that's the
$12.50.
That's the $1,250
And the
against the $4,000. And there's still $2,700 owed.
Correct. I explained several times that it was never our intention not to have the taxes paid
Yeah.
to jeopardize this lease
And I
agreement.
understood that several times.
Okay, I've said that.
Yeah. So are you,
We were under the impression this would be signed on the 21st by the
okay. So the balance,
By the 21st,
yeah,
that will be zero. How's that?
21st of this month? Okay, I guess,
21st of March.
so I guess that's the answer to the question. Okay,
Now we understand. Okay.
yeah. It wasn't clear
Okay. and
before.
Everything will start at zero.
Yeah.
as of the 21st.
Okay, so that's the answer to that question.
And what I was saying was, if you vote tonight to sign this, but put it basically as a caveat, that it'll be held in the town administrator's office until the taxes are satisfied. We don't have to bring this back to another meeting, we just can keep this going.
They're not satisfied.
And then
it won't
all
be a-
bets are off.
Okay,
But I'm trying to eliminate going back and forth with this. This has been like herding cats for me, trying to get this all in one spot.
oh, you got three different,
Yeah, I know, and I'm going to meet the water commissioners tomorrow night with this.
yeah.
So, what I'd like to see is a motion that basically reiterates what I just said, that we authorize signature on this with it not being basically acted as an instrument until the taxes are satisfied.
Rather than bring it back to our March 21st meeting?
Right.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
As long as that's the caveat.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done deal.
Sound reasonable?
I'm frankly, I'm tired of seeing these people. Bob is sick of me. So I need some signatures on this thing. Marla, did you see how that works? I know. You realize we still got the water commissioners to deal with. A. What's his A? This is one tough crowd.
All night.
Yeah, apparently I'm not good at understanding sometimes.
We got to the bottom of it.
Yeah, two more. Okay, now let's get into some real interesting conversations. We're going to talk firewood.
Firwood.
Town has surplus firewood stacked by the town hall behind the fire station. We brought this up a few meetings ago. I've searched all these businesses that I could think of. I'm gonna need that contract because I gotta go to the water department, Bob. And basically, I didn't come up with a company that wanted it. I've tried.
Okay.
So this was put together by town council. This is basically the Board of Selectmen declaring this as tangible surplus property with a value of less than $10,000. I would like to read this into the record.
Okay.
One, as a result of tree harvesting operations on town property, the town has wood logs that the Board of Selectmen hereby declares surplus with an estimated net value of less than $10,000. Two, the Board of Selectmen wishes to make available these wood logs to the public at no charge by providing these wood logs to the public on the terms and conditions outlined below. The town is not required to expend any town resources or funds to secure removal of the wood logs from town property. 3, the wood logs may be obtained on the following terms and conditions. A, the wood logs will be available at the fire station, actually behind the fire station, on a first-come, first-served basis. B, interested parties may obtain the wood logs on Fridays and Saturdays between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only. While logs will be available until supply is exhausted or until further notice by the town. The reason Fridays and Saturdays is the town hall's closed, so there's no noise action or stuff like that. Given the lengths of the wood logs, interested parties may need to cut the logs into a smaller segment for transport. Individuals seeking to obtain the wood logs shall be solely responsible for the cutting and transporting of wood logs. No equipment, supplies, supervision, or assistance will be provided by the town. D, only one interested party will be allowed access to the wood logs at any particular time. The town reserves the right to refuse to allow any individual access to the wood logs if in its sole discretion there are safety risks to doing so. E, interested parties must sign a waiver, release of liability, and conveyance not to sue in favor of the town at the fire department at 204 College Highway by entering the town property for purposes of collecting the wood and any other activities related thereto. Basically, you got to go down to the fire station, see the fire chief to sign a waiver before you can do anything. Recipients of the wood logs take them as is with no warranty of any kind expressed or implied. 4, the town shall post on its website these written procedures together with public notice of the availability of the wood and any other details the selectmen deem relevant. 5, the town reserves the right to revoke this notice at any time, and no contract expressed or implied is created by virtue of this notice. 6, any access to or acquisition of the logs not in compliance with these procedures may constitute trespass or theft or other violations of law resulting in legal action accordingly. So no midnight picking up of the logs. 7, the town shall maintain copies of these written procedures, any public notice, all waivers required under these procedures, and any other associated document to the extent that is required by the law. Do I hear a motion? You read that again?
Oh my God, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion? You think it's easy up here? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Can't even give this stuff away.
We'll see about that. Borrow your pen again. Thank you.
All right. Why, look at that. Joint meeting of the bylaw committee.
Is this crowd in the back?
Finally.
Do I know you?
Familiar faces.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for meeting with us tonight. We are 3 of the 4 people on the bylaws committee. I'm Velda Goldberg, 26 Caitlin Way, and Virginia Ahart and Francine Tishman, and our other member is Margaret Larson, and she had to be at another meeting tonight, so she's not with us. And previously, I guess I took Jim Palermo's place on the bylaws committee. So we've been working on this for quite a few months now, and we've gone through a large part of the document. However, we feel now that we're at an impasse, that we need a little more direction from the select board to go on and continue our work. So we sent you this document on email last week, so hopefully you've had time to look at it, so this can go pretty quickly. We'd like you to affirm a number of things for us so we know how to proceed from now on. So the first thing we would like you to affirm is that our committee, it's within our charge to propose new sections and offer substantial revisions to existing sections. part of the reason for this, as we're going through the document, you know, the document was written quite a few years ago, and the town was much different then than it is now. And so we're trying to be very sensitive to the wonderful tradition that the town has, but balance it for what is to come in the future. So, for instance, there's no section in the bylaws that deals with how committees work. You know, what is a quorum for our committees? How do you get members on a committee? What's the process? What happens when someone fills out these applications? Where does it go? And so on. So that's just an example of a section that should be in there. Another example is there's a section on dogs and cats. There's nothing on farm animals. And the section on dogs and cats really is not up to par with what we see in other towns and up to par with some of the new regulations coming out of Mass. So we would like you to affirm that that's within our charge. And I should reiterate that we're only making suggestions. You know, our suggestions come to you. We're not the decision makers, but we would like you to want us to do this.
Comments, discussion?
I mean, I like some of the suggestions from the bylaws committee, which I don't know if everybody had a chance to read.
I would take item number 1 and then say, yes, it is your charge to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to see that.
Okay.
Right now, it's like trying to find something that's just not happening.
Okay, that's great.
You want to make a formal vote to that?
Oh, we want to go over the whole thing?
Yeah, let's go with the whole thing.
I'm not seeing a whole lot of changes.
The second thing, let me tell you the reason first, and then I think it will make more sense. When you look at the bylaws, you see some very specific dollar amounts for fees. So, I don't know, some license or something like that, or a fee is $10. So, for instance, then if you folks as a select board or the committee wants to raise that to $12, you have to go to town meeting because it's a change of the bylaws. What we're seeing in other bylaws is it will say the fee for thus and such shall not exceed $50, you know, when the existing fee is maybe $10. So it gives you, you know, a little higher number. It's not an outrageously higher number, but then you don't, it should be a document that, you know, will last for a few years. So it would give more flexibility. So we would like you to affirm that you want us to think about that.
During the time of Prop 2.5 going through, there was a general statute that was passed that most towns and cities adopted that negated all other statutes that allowed for them to increase permitting fees, licensing fees, and that. You may want to find that general statute and reference it when you put it in there, because that basically negates all the other general statutes of the Commonwealth for fees. I don't remember what it is, what section off the top of my head. I could look it up for you, just remind me.
Okay. That's a good segue into the next one, so maybe you could consider both of these together. From what you just said, there's a legal issue there potentially that we need a little more information on, and there are some other legal issues that we would like you to give us permission to just have a quick chat with town council about this, because when we started our work, this has to be approved. Ultimately, any changes have to go to the Attorney General's office. And so Heather had talked to us a little bit about the possible format they might want to see and the kinds of documentation you need and so on. And we're a little unsure about that. So we'd like to be able, so we don't, you know, spin our wheels here. We have it in the correct format. And so we'd like to ask that question and the one that you brought up and several other quick ones. I don't think we need a huge, long conversation with the attorneys, but, you know, just so we don't waste time.
Would you mind putting this together in a email as a bullet, what they are?
Yeah.
So we can send it to town council just to prep them?
Yep.
So that before you have the conversation with them, they understand what's being expected?
Very good.
Okay?
Okay.
It shortens the time at the other end if we can get them prepped before we ask the questions. Is that okay with the board?
Go through Bob.
Yeah.
So he can central, yeah.
Right.
Right. And so were you okay with number 2, if that's legal to do?
Now,
putting a ceiling in there.
Do
on
we,
the-
you know, and that's probably a legal question, do we have to put an actual fee amount, or can we just put a fee as, you know, approved by the board or something? That would be a nice way to do that.
Typically, what you do with these, in my history, has been that you don't put the fees into your bylaws.
Right.
You adopt the fees by the different boards that adopt fees.
Yeah, that's what
That becomes the fee structure of the town.
that would be easier.
That
to
would
do.
be our preference. That's what we would like to do, but we weren't sure if we
So that's
had
a
to
good
do that or
question.
not. Yeah. Okay. And the,
That statute, I know about that statute. Yeah, yep.
22F, if I
We can dig it out. 22F. Oh.
Yeah, 140.
okay, for number,
I'm just a dirt farmer, what do you want?
for number 4, this is something that you sort of brought up, John or Charlie, that the document is very confusing to look at. The same topic can be, there are threads of the same topic in five different sections, and it's extremely difficult to find things. But as you think about how to present it to the Attorney General's office, right now we're using track changes in Word, so you can see, you know, exactly what's crossed out, exactly what's added, and we think that's really important for both you folks and then ultimately for the citizens that are going to look at this. But we also would love to be able to move things around and consolidate topics. So what we've decided, and this is what we would like you to agree with, is that it's a bad idea to do all of that at once, because the whole document will be read, because even though you have the same wording on page 2 and you move it to page 3, it's going to look like a totally new section. So our proposal is to keep using track changes with the existing document without moving things around, get everybody comfortable with that, and then consolidate things afterwards. Then that should be an easier approval process, because you're not adding or subtracting anything, you're just moving things around. And then we'll figure out a really easy way, hopefully, for people to figure out, where we move things.
Is it possible you can do one with track changes showing and then with the changes all accepted, so side by side we can go back and forth? I find that, because if too many track changes, you could lose track of it.
Yeah, we can give it to you however you like in the end.
Yeah, but I agree, that method sounds good.
But basically, we want you to agree that we're going to do it in those 2 steps. Do the changes first and then true consolidation afterwards.
Consider, when you put this together, to be able to put a topic search in there, so that when someone goes into this document and it's 100 pages long, they can type in dog, and it searches and brings you to that.
Dirt farmer.
Okay? In one area.
Dirt farmer. Charlie.
Okay. Number 5, we're a little unclear with what's happening with the town charter. And if you are going to go in that direction, big time, sometime soon, that would have a huge impact on our work. So do we keep going with what we're doing and just sort of ignore that, or do you want us to hang back a little bit until you get a better idea of what's happening with
We haven't
that?
had any discussion because of all the other stuff going on in that. Is any of you guys looking at pushing the town charter issue?
I'd say continue as you're working and don't even consider the charter.
The other thing I was going to bring up, I don't know if, as long as it's in sync with, is the zoning. The planning board's been working on the zoning changes. And I don't know how the zoning and changes in this will go hand in hand. It's all, if they reference each other. So we might want to make sure that's in process. That's halfway through right now. So
There are a number of committees that are working on changes to their own. I think Conservation Committee is doing some major changes and so on. So we are waiting for some of those committees to get back to us.
okay.
All right, thank you for number 5. And then the last thing, the process for getting this approved, we just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with that and you agree with our ideas there. we feel that it's really, really important that the townspeople feel comfortable with this, and they feel like they were consulted and they had ample time to look at it, make suggestions, and bat things around, and so on. So what we would like to propose is that we bring changes to you piecemeal, starting maybe at each meeting, so it's not so onerous. You could look at a little tiny section or something like that, and not approve it finally, but just kind of give your tentative approval. So then we could put that section, say, up on the web page, and we can make a special web page so that the townspeople can look at it. They could write comments and so on, and then we can collect all of that. And then when we bring you the final document, you'll have, a good census of, what the townspeople feel. And then hopefully things will go smoother because people will feel comfortable with it, and they'll have had a lot of, time to look at it. And then we can start meeting on these sections. We plan on meeting much more often so townspeople could come to our meetings, and we can go from there. So it'll be a good process in the end, and people feel, involved and consulted and so on.
And maybe have a placeholder on every agenda of the board just to review what you bring forward. Automatic. I like the idea of putting it on the website, kind of a living document, so people can see the progress.
Yeah, we can fix it so it might be a separate web page with a link, but we can fix it so their comments will show. We can make it like a blog or something that, so everybody can see their comments.
That'll be interesting to manage.
We're an intrepid group. Okay, anything
So I'll make a
else?
motion, we agree with all their suggested directions for us. Is it?
And that we're not moving forward with the charter.
Including that, yeah, and we're not moving
I'll
forward.
second that.
Okay,
Okay?
terrific, thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah,
Got it right there?
Do I have any discussion?
We just
All in
did.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you, folks, very much. And
Unanimous.
thanks to Margaret.
Just ticking things off.
And the crowd is dwindling.
The room's getting colder, you notice?
You notice that? Yeah, temperature's dropping. Man, I'm telling you, we're gonna have to bring a couple of cows in here pretty soon. All right. We have a number of PCFs to be signed. First one is a Benjamin Fisher and entry-level firefighter, third rider, EMT. And
It's a new hire, right?
I believe so. Yes,
That's
new
a
hire.
hire.
Next one is a training aid EMS, and it's a change in position, and it's a Shell Ferry, and next one is a probationary firefighter EMT, new hire, Cindy Morton. And the last one, which seems to have quite a bit of material with it. Is that one? No, it's two.
Yeah,
Is,
can I make a motion that we accept the 3 firefighters ones?
Sure.
Because we're changing
Do I hear a
departments.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next one is the water superintendent. And it looks like this is a change in salary. And the salary's going from $67,626 to the new annual salary of $72,360. It says here we will need to transfer money at year's end from water wages as retro for the financial year. So evidently there's some shortage on that account, and they're just going to transfer it from another wage line item. That's been approved by the Water Commissioners, the PPP Board, and the Finance Committee. And I guess that's it. Discussion?
I was at that Finance Committee meeting, and there was a lot of information presented, so I'm okay with it.
Your motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done deal. All right, no licenses and permits. Other documents that require signatures. On February 23rd, I signed WP 1734 for $252,910.85. On February 23rd, I signed a PD warrant for 17-34 for $44,063.96. On February 23rd, I signed the PD warrant 1734A for $150,472.61. On March 2nd, I signed a warrant for W17-35 for $69,010.86. Today, I signed the warrants for PD 1736 for $43,531.98. And I signed a warrant today for P 1736 for $268,545. That $5 was like just, I was having a moment there. So those are all the warrants I signed up to today. Any questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay.
Any of them involve people here that they can't vote on particular ones?
Not to my knowledge. I saw nothing there for any disclaimers on anything. But given the fact that I did the signing and I'm the instrument and I have no conflicts, other than the one that's obvious, I don't think there's an issue.
Okay.
Now, minutes. I see a note here for February 13th, regular meeting. No?
Not ready.
Not ready. We've already gone through our calendar. March 14th, there's a meeting. It's basically a special selectmen's meeting to do the appointments for the search committee for a town administrator. March 21st is our regular selectmen's meeting. March 22nd, at the William E. Norris School, we will be having a meeting, public hearing to discuss the private way issues of plowing and sanding those streets.
I thought it was the 21st. It's the 22nd.
Nope, 22nd, yeah.
The second,
What time? I have 6 p.m.
6 p.m. The annual town caucus is at 7 o'clock on March 14th. I don't know why the finance committee stuff is listed, but my finance committee is meeting March 6th, 13th, and 20th. Are those the Sundays?
Yeah, those are the Sundays
Yeah.
again?
So it's the 7th, 14th, and 21st. Articles for annual town meeting. We are now keeping a running list because the article issues are coming forward.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
No, I'm sorry. March 6th is Monday.
Yeah.
Right, those are gonna be right, Mark.
The dates in the other, in his,
6,
The ones
13,
in my
and 20
report.
are
So these are
correct.
correct. So,
Yes,
so
correct.
finance committee meetings March 6th, 13th, and 20th are Mondays.
Because we have a meeting on the 21st, that's when you said
Yeah,
that. That was-
all right. We are running an active list of proposed articles for town meeting. I'll read them just so that everyone hears what's going on. Glendale Road, we're reworking the road. MGL certification for clerk and financial department heads. That's basically an incentive to get them certified. Non-criminal ticketing for the police department. Land taking Coleman Road. Right to farm bylaw. Water department articles. One of them is, I believe, their master plan for the water department. The marijuana bylaw. Authorization to install a heating wire for ice dams on the roof of town hall. CPA transfers to fund legal documents for donations for conservation and other items. A new vehicle for the police department. Our police department, the oldest vehicle, lost its rear end, and we had to replace that, but it's fairly obvious that we're going to have to do something with that vehicle, so we're looking at replacement of that. And a new ambulance for the fire department. The ambulance is probably going to be funded out of the ambulance receipts, and the police car, we're probably looking at borrowing some money to do that.
I also added at your request, Charlie, the shared conservation agent.
And the shared conservation
It's not on
agent.
this because this was printed right before I did
Right,
it this
but
afternoon.
that's gonna be another contract, and funding. And
Wasn't there the donation of the land on Brickyard? Is it Brickyard Extension?
yes,
Steve Howland?
That's not on here now.
I see
The
that.
Howland.
And,
Yeah, the Howlands.
it's,
Yeah, how'd that get taken off?
how did it get taken off? By accident.
Oh, okay.
But, it's actually two articles.
Yeah.
It's one article with the Board of Selectmen for basically authorization to take the land, and the other article is to transfer CPC funds to pay for the legal expenses to
To
take
do
the
that.
property.
So it's gonna be on there.
It better be. I don't know
Okay.
why it's not, but there's things that drop off this. That's why you see me doing scribble notes every now and then. Is, you know, there's a lot of activity in this small town that people realize is very quiet.
Okay, I just didn't want that to be left off.
No, and I
Okay.
don't either. Okay, that said, any other articles or comments or anything? Then we're gonna move to go into executive session. We're going to go into executive session under Chapter 30A, Section 21, 3, 6, and 6. Basically, to discuss strategies for collective bargaining, litigation, if the open meeting would basically have an effect on the bargaining, litigation, and position of the public body, so declared by the chair. The other one's to consider purchase, exchange, lease of value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on negotiation. And the final one is also 6, to declare exchange, lease, value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may